Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling a listener request, and I'm really excited about this one.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about Ichigo Kurosaki from the anime Bleach.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to be using a combination of Wikipedia articles and character summaries
Yeah.
to, really get a solid picture of this guy and what makes him tick.
Yeah, what's really fascinating about Ichigo is that he's become such a popular character, and it goes beyond just being, the typical powerful hero.
Right.
He's got this really relatable quality to him, grappling with real emotions, heavy responsibilities, and yeah, the seriously cool powers don't hurt either.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. And it's like, on the surface, you have this, seemingly ordinary teenager living in Karakura Town.
Right.
Goes to school, works part-time jobs, has a little bit of a punk reputation with that bright orange hair.
Right, orange hair.
Yeah.
You can't talk about Ichigo without mentioning that. It's a constant source of trouble, always landing him in fights. Almost ironic when you consider how much protecting others becomes his driving force.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if it's like a visual clue, right? Like this outward sign of rebelliousness actually masks this deep-seated need to protect. And speaking of protection, his family is everything to Ichigo.
Oh, absolutely.
He's totally devoted to his sisters, Corinne and Yuzu, and his dad, Isshin. But there's this huge shadow hanging over them all.
Right.
The loss of his mother, Masaki.
Yeah, Masaki's death is truly the defining moment that shapes Ichigo's entire worldview.
Wow.
And it's the fuel behind his drive to protect a drive that's further reinforced by his father, explaining that his name, Ichigo, literally means to protect one thing.
Wow, that's heavy stuff. It's like destiny was woven into his name from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then things take a hard left turn into the supernatural when a soul reaper named Rukia Kuchiki literally shows up in his bedroom.
Yeah, this encounter with Rukia throws Ichigo headfirst into a world with incredibly high stakes. We're not talking typical teenage angst anymore.
Right.
We're in a realm where the balance between life and the afterlife is constantly under threat.
Yeah, and that threat comes in the form of hollows, these monstrous spirits that devour souls.
Yeah.
Rukia is actually there hunting a hollow when she's forced to transfer her powers to Ichigo, making him a substitute soul reaper.
Whoa.
Talk about a life-changing moment.
Yeah, you see his initial hesitation, even a bit of disbelief, but then his inherent desire to protect kicks in.
Right.
It's almost instinctual.
Yeah.
He accepts this enormous responsibility, becoming the shield between these terrifying creatures and everyone he cares about.
So we're starting to see some of Ichigo's complexity. He's not just a one-dimensional hero, he's got layers. What would you say are some of his defining personality traits?
Well, on the surface, you have the delinquent tendencies, the hot-headedness, that tough exterior. But underneath, there's an incredibly strong sense of loyalty, honor, and deep compassion. It's that intriguing contrast that makes him so compelling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one thing that really struck me while reading through these sources is his strong sense of fairness.
Oh, yeah.
He absolutely hates it when people try to cheat or manipulate their way to victory, even if it's against him.
That's a great observation. It speaks to his integrity, his belief that true strength comes from facing challenges head-on. You see this not only in his battles, but also in his relationships. As his powers grew, so does his sense of responsibility. It expands beyond his immediate family to encompass anyone in need of protection.
It's almost like he's constantly pushing back against any attempt to control or manipulate, whether it's from Bullies Hollows or even the Soul Society itself. Which, speaking of the Soul Society, let's talk about his Zanbakudo. I mean, that oversized sword is as iconic as his orange hair.
It's called Zangetsu, and it's a visual representation of Ichigo's immense spiritual energy. A Zanbakudo is essentially a Soul Reaper's soul manifested as a sword, a reflection of their inner strength and spirit.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just a cool weapon, it's deeply connected to who he is. And what's even more impressive is how quickly he masters the different stages of its release. Shikai and then Bankai.
Most Soul Reapers train for decades to reach that level of mastery. Achieving Bankai so quickly speaks volumes about Ichigo's potential, but it also foreshadows the internal conflicts he'll face as he grapples with this immense power. And then there's the whole other layer of complexity with his hollow mask.
Right, that mask.
Oh.
So visually striking, and you can't help but feel this sense of intimidation when it appears.
It represents the darker side of Ichigo's power, his inner hollow.
Right.
It's a source of incredible strength, but it also represents a potential loss of control. This is where things get really interesting because it's not just a simple case of good versus evil.
So we've got this seemingly ordinary teenager with extraordinary powers, a complicated past, and a hidden inner darkness. It's no wonder fans are drawn to his character.
And he's not alone on this journey. He forms these incredibly strong bonds with both humans and Soul Reapers. Rukia obviously is a key figure, but there's also Orihime.
Right.
Each of them brings their own unique abilities and personalities to the table, offering support and challenging Ichigo in different ways.
And let's not forget Ori Ishida the Quincy. That relationship is a roller coaster.
Oh, tell me about it.
They start as rivals, battling it out with their opposing powers.
Right.
But that rivalry eventually evolves into this begrudging respect, a fragile alliance born out of necessity. Ryu's Quincy heritage adds another layer of intrigue to Ichigo's journey, hinting at potential conflicts down the line. It's like the pieces of a puzzle are slowly coming together, but we're not sure what the final picture will look like.
Exactly.
And that's where we'll leave it for now. We've covered a lot of ground from Ichigo's humble beginnings to his sudden immersion in the world of Soul Reapers and Hollows. But his journey is far from over. When we come back, we'll dive deeper into his power struggles, his epic battles, and what those battles reveal about his character.
Make sure to stick around. You won't want to miss the next part of our deep dive into the world of Ichigo Kurosaki.
Welcome back. So last time we left off with Ichigo kind of caught in this web of, complicated relationships and this growing awareness of his Quincy heritage. But one thing that really stood out to me in all the source material was just how fast his powers grow.
Yeah.
It's almost unheard of for a Soul Reaper, especially a substitute, to achieve what he does in such a short time.
You're absolutely right. His rate of learning and mastering techniques is phenomenal. He achieves Benkai, which is like the ultimate release of a Zanpakuto's power in a matter of days. Think about that. Most Soul Reapers train for decades to reach that level.
It makes you wonder if it's all raw talent or if there's something more at play. Could it be connected to his unique heritage? Being both human and Soul Reaper?
That's a question worth exploring. His heritage definitely plays a role, especially when you consider the emergence of his inner hollow. Remember that intimidating mask we were talking about?
Okay.
It's not just a cool visual. It's a physical manifestation of a power that both terrifies and fascinates.
Right, it's like this constant internal battle he's fighting.
Exactly.
And those battles become very real when he goes up against the Ericart, these powerful, hollow-like beings from Hueco Mundo.
Right.
It feels like the stakes keep getting higher and Ichigo keeps pushing himself to the limit.
And it's in these battles that we see not just the extent of his power, but also his vulnerabilities. He faces opponents who are stronger, faster, more experienced, and yet he never gives up. His determination to protect those he cares about fuels him even when the odds are stacked against him.
His fight with Grimjaw Jägerjaka, the sixth Espada, is a perfect example of that. It's brutal back and forth.
Yeah.
They're both pushing each other to the brink.
Right.
What struck me about that fight was how it highlights Ichigo's internal conflict between his desire to win and his need to protect.
Exactly. He's willing to unleash his hollow mask to tap into that dangerous power, but only when those he cares about are in danger. It's a choice he constantly grapples with.
It shows how far he's come since that first encounter with his inner hollow. He's learned to control it, to wield it as a weapon, rather than be consumed by it.
Which brings us to his confrontation with Ulquiorra, the fourth Espada. This fight takes Ichigo to an entirely different level, both in terms of his power and the despair he experiences.
Ulquiorra is so cold and analytical.
Oh, yeah.
He tells Ichigo point blank, "There's no point in fighting, you'll never win." But even after being fatally wounded, Ichigo refuses to back down.
That's where his true strength lies, wouldn't you say? It's not just about raw power or technique. It's about this unwavering will, his refusal to give up on those he's sworn to protect. And in that moment of utter despair, something incredible happens.
He transforms. And not just into his usual mask form. This is something else entirely.
Right.
Something wild and ferocious and honestly kind of terrifying.
It's a glimpse of his incredible potential, but also the immense danger that comes with it. This new hollow form grants him power beyond anything he's experienced before, but it threatens to consume him completely. He's walking a tightrope between power and control, fighting for his life and his very soul.
It's a good thing he's got friends like Orihime whose healing powers are essential in those dire moments.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But even with their support, the battles keep getting more intense, the enemies more powerful.
And then there's Aizen, the mastermind behind so much of the conflict in Soul Society. He's on a whole other level. A former Soul Reaper captain with incredible power and cunning, he's been manipulating Ichigo and everyone around him from the very beginning.
It's almost like Ichigo's being pulled in different directions.
Right.
He's got his loyalty to his friends and his duty to protect, but he's also facing these constant betrayals and manipulations, even from those he once considered allies.
Which brings us to a fascinating point about the substitute Shinigami badge that Ichigo wears. According to Kugo Ginji, the very first substitute Shinigami, that badge isn't just a symbol of authority, it's actually a device used to monitor and restrict a substitute's power.
Wait, seriously. So Soul Society has been spying on Ichigo this whole time.
Yeah, it raises questions about trust and the motivations of those in power. Kugo claims that the badge was designed by Captain Jushiro Ukitake to control substitute Soul Reapers to prevent them from becoming too powerful.
But Ichigo doesn't buy it right. He trusts Yukitake even after hearing Kuko's accusations.
Exactly. He chooses to believe in the connections he's forged and the people who fought alongside him. It's a testament to his loyalty, but also his willingness to question what he's told and form his own judgments.
And that loyalty is put to the test over and over, especially when he's forced to confront the truth about the Fullbringers. He's desperate to regain his Shinigami powers and is drawn to this group led by the charismatic Kugo Ginju.
Right.
At first, it seems like they genuinely want to help him.
But there's always a twist, isn't there? And with Ichigo, the twists just keep getting more complicated. It makes you question everything you thought you knew.
So we've seen Ichigo go from this punk kid with orange hair to a powerful warrior battling Espada and navigating the complex politics of Soul Society. But there's still so much to uncover.
Remember those hints about Ichigo's Quincy heritage? The shadow of Yhwach, the Quincy King, has been looming over his story from the start. And as we delve into the final chapters of Ichigo's journey, that shadow becomes impossible to ignore.
Sounds like things are about to get really intense. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll unravel the final mysteries of Ichigo Kurosaki's epic journey. Okay, so we're back. And, things are about to get serious when we start talking about Yhwach the Quincy King. Before we went off, it seemed like all paths were leading to Ichigo's Quincy heritage.
What's really fascinating about this final arc is that it's not just about, defeating a powerful enemy. It's about Ichigo confronting his past, his present, and ultimately who he really is. For so long, he believed that the spirit within his Zanpakuto, the one who called himself Zangetsu, was the source of his Soul Reaper powers.
Right.
But turns out that was only part of the story.
Right. It was a huge reveal. And I have to admit, I felt kind of bad for Ichigo. It's like finding out a fundamental truth about yourself has been hidden from you.
Talk about
As an identity crisis.
It was a deception, maybe even a well-intentioned one, but a deception nonetheless. Being Ichigo knew as Zangetsu was actually a manifestation of his Quincy powers, a part of himself he had suppressed for so long.
And this revelation comes at like the worst possible time.
Of course.
The Wandenreich Yhwach's Quincy army launches this devastating attack on Soul Society. The stakes have never been higher, and now Ichigo is wrestling with this whole new understanding of himself.
It's amazing to see how, despite the initial shock and confusion, he eventually accepts this new truth. He even travels to the Soul King Palace to reforge his Zanpakuto to finally embrace and wield the full extent of his power, both Soul Reaper and Quincy.
This whole idea of accepting all parts of yourself, even the ones that seem dark or dangerous, that really resonated with me. It makes you think about your own internal struggles, right?
Absolutely. And his new Zanpakuto is a visual representation of that acceptance.
Yeah.
It's no longer a single oversized blade, but two distinct swords. One representing his Soul Reaper powers, the other his Quincy heritage. He's not trying to deny or suppress any part of himself.
Right.
He's integrating it all.
It's like that moment of clarity when you finally realize you can't fight who you are. You have to embrace it, learn from it, and use it to become stronger.
And with this newfound clarity, Ichigo faces Yhwach head-on. It's an epic battle, but even with the combined strength of his allies, Soul Reapers, Visored, even former enemies like Grimmjow,
Right.
it's incredibly tough. Yhwach's ability, the Almighty, is just that powerful.
I mean, being able to see all possible futures, to anticipate every move, and even to transform the future to his will. It's like fighting an opponent who already knows every decision you'll make before you even make it. How do you even begin to fight that?
It seems impossible, right? And Ichigo, for all his strength and determination, he appears outmatched. His Bankai is broken, his powers are pushed to their absolute limit. It's a moment of despair, unlike anything he's faced before.
But even in that darkness, there's a glimmer of hope. Uryu Ichigo's Quincy friend makes a shocking decision. He chooses to side with Yhwach not out of loyalty, but out of a desperate plan to exploit a weakness in the Almighty.
Talk about a twist. It really throws you off balance. Can you imagine being in Ichigo's position, trying to figure out who to trust when everyone seems to be playing their own game?
It highlights the incredibly complex web of relationships and motivations driving this final conflict. Uryu's actions, even though they seem like a betrayal, are ultimately aimed at giving Ichigo a fighting chance.
It's a reminder that sometimes the people who care about you most will challenge you, push you, and even seem to betray you in order to help you grow.
And Ichigo, trusting in his friend's intentions, seizes that opportunity. He uses his newly reforged Zanpakuto to deliver a decisive blow, splitting Yhwach in two, and seemingly ending the Quincy King's reign of terror.
It's a victory hard won, a culmination of everything Ichigo has gone through, his growth, his struggles, and his unwavering determination to protect those he cares about.
But even in victory, there's a sense of melancholy. Ichigo, having used the full extent of his powers, loses his Soul Reaper abilities again. He returns to his ordinary life unable to see spirits or sense their presence. It's like a piece of him is missing.
It's bittersweet, but in a way it feels fitting. He fulfilled his destiny, and now he returns to a life of normalcy, carrying the weight of his experiences and the bonds he's forged along the way.
So what does this all mean for us, the viewers? What's the takeaway from Ichigo Kurosaki's epic journey?
Ichigo's story reminds us that true strength isn't just about power or skill. It's about the choices we make, the people we stand by, and the unwavering belief that we can make a difference. It's about finding the courage to face our own inner darkness and use it to become stronger.
He shows us that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, there's always a reason to fight, a reason to hope, and that even ordinary people can rise to meet extraordinary challenges.
His story is a deep dive into the human heart, a reminder that it's the connections we forge and the choices we make that truly define who we are.
Ichigo Kurosaki is a hero for our times, a reminder that we all have the potential for greatness within us.
And that concludes our deep dive into the world of Ichigo Kurosaki. We hope you've enjoyed this epic journey as much as we have. If you enjoyed the episode, like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.